Let's rap about ramps, shall we? Ramps are a seasonal spring plant from the allium family with a flavor similar to garlic and wild onions. But it's important to note that although similar to a wild onion or a wild leek, ramps are ramps. They're not the same thing. So here we have a ramp. Big, wide, green leaves tapering into a reddish-purple stalk and connected to a bulb that sits under the ground. You'll find people picking the entire bulb, but that's actually damaging to the ramp population. So don't scoop the entire thing out of the ground. Only clip at the base if you must take the entire thing, but more preferably, just take one leaf at a time. So actually, let's talk more about that and how to pick these and harvest these so you have a nice patch in your arsenal and a future of actually picking these ramps. The most sustainable way to harvest ramps is to cut only one leaf, leaving the bulb and the second leaf to continue growing. This is least impactful on the soil, the plant, and the colony as a whole. In this case, we took one leaf from about 80% of the ramps in this patch and took doubles with the stem on only a few to actually show you guys the anatomy. So please, be grateful here. If you see people ripping these guys out whole and then trying to sell them to you, please decline and educate these monsters on what they are actually doing. That's your job. Let's dive a little deeper while this guy pretends like we can actually hear him. So ramps are indigenous to the Northeast and many parts of the South as well. These beautiful little weeds have a super short season lasting for just about 4 to 6 weeks in early spring. The scarcity is due mainly to a 4-year maturity process that takes place before they are able to even be harvested. So in some cases you may see ramps pickled by the bulb. Although the bulbs are delicious and great for pickling, like previously mentioned before, the chances of that plant coming back the next year is probably zero. So due to this scarcity, ramps in peak season can be seen to go as high as anywhere between $14 to even $20 per pound. Yeah, for a weed that grows wild in the woods. That's crazy. Ramps are best used as fresh as possible, but if you can't indulge or play with these right away, you can buy yourself a few extra days with proper storage. I like to lightly dampen a paper towel in water and roll the ramp leaves up into small bundles. Then lightly wrap with plastic wrap or a dish towel while leaving the ends open so it doesn't get too funky in there. Or place in a plastic bag large enough to fit them comfortably and then leaving the bag unzipped. This is going to allow a little bit of air to get in there without keeping them from drying out. Your fridge may smell a little bit like onions for the next few days, but like, whatever, it's all part of the process. Now you can eat ramps raw, sure, but for the purpose of this recipe, it's going to be best to give them a pre-cook. We're going to make a compound butter out of the ramps to be used anywhere at any time throughout the season. Blanching is a common technique used in the kitchen to partially cook an ingredient and then shock it immediately after in ice water to stop any further cooking. Basically, cooking food to a desired degree and then stopping it for whatever purposes you may have. Normally this is done to veggies or food ahead of time for a faster cook time later. We'll get into blanching in a more defined video in the future, but for now we'll just cover the basics. Submerge your greens in small quantities, using a pot this size, and allow them to cook for about 20 to 30 seconds before taking them out and immediately going in to an ice bath to stop any further cooking. You'll notice for green vegetables, this will help preserve the brightness and color as well. After the ramps are cold, you can take them out and spread them over a paper towel and press out any excess water. We want these as dry as possible, basically no excess moisture hanging around that's going to screw up the ratio in our butter. Start by pulsing your ramps in a food processor or a blender. If you want a very smooth, bright, cohesive butter, then puree it until it's completely smooth. But I personally like a chunky ramp butter with nice chunks of broken ramps throughout, so I didn't pulse as long as you may think. Next, add the softened butter, the zest of 1 lemon, the juice of half of that lemon, black pepper and kosher salt to taste. You can adjust it accordingly and keep tasting it to get it to exactly where you want it to be. Store this by wrapping it or rolling it in plastic wrap, twisting it off and storing it in the fridge until it's solidified again. This will last at least up to a week in your fridge. Now you could spread this on toast, make your eggs with it, toss it with pasta, toss vegetables in. You know what? Just show them. Nah, go ahead, I want to see something. Alright, let's say you have some frozen ravioli or agnolotti from my agnolotti and fresh pasta video that I know you all watched. I'll put the link as a refresher below, so don't worry. Heat up some of our ramp butter. Once it's melted, add some pasta water and start working that into a nice sauce. Add your hot pasta and boom! Dinner's done in 6 minutes. Yeah, 6 minutes, because when you have fresh pasta, even if it's frozen, it always cooks a little bit quicker than dried pasta. You can even make it extra fancy and grate some cured egg yolks over the top in place of cheese for a nice touch. Don't worry, that video will be coming soon, so keep your eyes peeled for it. Laying off the gluten? No one cares. But you could even take a beautiful ribeye or New York strip, reverse sear it like how we learned in, well, the reverse sear video. I'll link that below too. Sear it off in a nice cast iron. Notice how we do nice and render out that fat cap first, and then sear both sides in that fat. Hit it with a nice dab of ramp butter as it rests for another 5 minutes, and you just impressed everyone in the neighborhood this summer. Listen, the point is, if you find some ramps at a farmer's market, stumble across a patch in the woods, or some fairies left some under your pillow last night, make this butter with it. I mean, at the very least, make this butter with it. You can freeze it by the pound. You'll have a delicious tool all season long. More ramp videos to come in the next few weeks. Subscribe to the channel for weekly content, and I'll see you next week. Look at this. I have to go. I have to eat this. This is stunning. Till next time, guys.